will be just a report also on what we have done as summer school students sent by Jerry to the Federal Institute of Hydrology in Koblenz in Germany. And I'll be talking about the macro and microplastics, but of course it's good that Jerry has already given us a very good a good scan of this plastics problem and statistics. So the summer school was, of course, done at the Institute, and it's from July 16 to 21. So ilang days lang pala yun, no? Parang ang tagal natin. And it's an international, well, I could say it's an international summer school, but there were a lot of participants from the East European countries, and from Asia, I think it's just us, and then some were from Africa. And while in the hotel, you know, we're doing the course, and I saw this in BBC News. The Earth is becoming planet plastic. So kung may 4-piece kanina, we have 2-piece, planet plastic. Well, this is a familiar site. This is in Manila Bay. And you know, Secretary Simatu is really very keen on this Manila Bay rehabilitation. But of course, his focus is on fecal coliforms. But when he saw this problem, he said, "Ha, ano yan?" But of course, I couldn't bring into the topic of microplastics. Dahan-dahan muna, no? And this is a common site. So here, maybe Jerry said we could not see shampoo bottles because they can sell it. What we can see from here are those that are non-revenue used plastic. This is in Estero de Magdalena, and this is one of the targets, the earliest targets of the rehabilitation efforts, because when we presented to Secretary Simatu that don't focus on Manila Bay, only focus at the esteros and the rivers that go into Manila Bay, then he appreciated, and the action started in the esteros. But of course, it's just, you know, the dredging and the cleaning, when a lot of them are composed of the macroplastics. So what are microplastics? Or by the word itself, micro, it means small. And we were informed, this was in our lecture, that according to the Plastic Soup Foundation, the term microplastics was first coined in 2004, and that's where the interest on microplastics started. It's less than 5 millimeter in size, but Dr. Tonet Tanchuling will give you more on the details of these different sizes of microplastics, and they come from a variety of sources. Of course, the macroplastics, and this was mentioned already, the microbeads. These are those that we find in our cosmetics and our healthcare products, in some cleansers, and of course the toothpaste. I remember there was a meeting at the Committee on Ecology at the House of Representatives, and I don't know, I had the chance to bring it that, you know, there could be more danger now because of this plastic pollution, because now we're talking of microplastics and the risks of microplastics. And it's good one or two from those who attended the hearing sort of nag-second demotion sa akin. But I hope this will really get into the consciousness also of our lawmakers. I read somewhere that during the time of President Obama, he already issued something like on the ban of these microbeads in the manufacture of certain products. And these microplastics easily pass through the filtration system. So I'm wondering, of course, I would not deny that perhaps this is a possibility that it's not only marine microplastics, but even in the freshwater environment in Laguna de Bay, we could have these microplastics now. And they said that it doesn't pass through, or it passed through the filtration system. We have 2 water concessionaires now in Laguna de Bay. We have Manila Water and we have Maynilad. And I could just imagine, maybe we're drinking water with nanoplastics, or so we leave it to the scientists to investigate and do the research. And also, according to one of our lecturers, that the estimate in 2014 was that about 93,000 to 236,000 metric tons 236 or even 93,000 metric tons of microplastics. You could just imagine. These are these are very small pieces, and you accumulate that into even 90,000 metric tons. That's really a lot. When we talk of this concern, the question is there really a risk from microplastics? And in one of the lectures by Dr. Wagner, he says here that, you know, we know a lot about the macroplastics, but, you know, with microplastics, the encounter rate is still, that was 2016 or 2017, unknown. Is it still unknown, 2019? And then bioaccumulation, there are already evidence shown that even the microscopic organisms already have microplastics in their system. And what is really the toxicity of microplastics? Jerry said he doesn't care anymore if he has eaten fish with microplastics because the risk is still not known. Or like me, I have eaten it already. I know that. And then, of course, the ecological consequences of microplastics. So there is really a lot of room to study about microplastics. We talk about emerging pollutants, you know, these endocrine disruptors, and perhaps this could be included in the list of emerging pollutants, the microplastics. As you said, the net keeps on netting. When it's disposed to the ocean, it nets this. Is this a seal or what? And these are, you know, common occurrences now in any part of the world. The last was, we were all surprised, 2019, the slide that Jerry saw, the big whale, you know, with a lot, you can enumerate the plastics found in the gut or in the stomach. So let's go from this macroplastic to microplastics. These are some of the microplastics collected in the lab when we were there at the institute. And what are the biological impacts? You know, the macroplastics, we already know that, you know, they get into the gut of the mammals. But look at this. This is a zooplankton. And already there are microplastics in zooplankton. I just deleted the slide, but you know, even in other forms of life, smaller than this animal, microplastics have already been seen by those who are currently doing these studies. And look at this. This is a shore crab. So there are already the polystyrene microspheres found in the shore crabs. So these are, we can consider these macroorganisms. So if microorganisms already have plastics in their system, then what more the macroorganisms? This is a very interesting poster. It's just that I couldn't get it. So what I did was just take a picture. And this is on the new approach in the collection and processing of microplastics. Anyway, if you sort of zoom in, you can see the methodology. In fact, the methodologies are already existing and being tested. So this is one, and anyway, you have a copy of the presentation, so you can see how all these kind of methodologies. And this is something, the next slide would show, these are actual observations. We did it when we were in Koblenz. So this is the River Rhine, and they have a pump. It's like a running centrifuge where they collected, let the water from the Rhine pass through. Of course, you have some silt, you have some sediments in there, and this was processed in the lab. Now, this is very interesting. You know, I was watching NHK World, and when I watch TV, I really don't have full attention. Nagmumultitasking ako habang nanonood ng TV, no? And then when I heard the term microplastic, suddenly I paid full attention. So I took a picture of this from the television, and in Japan, a very young guy has this concern on microplastics. So he said, how could I collect the microplastics? So we made use of a plankton net. We all use the plankton net in Laguna de Bay, in Manila Bay, and you see those particles there. Those are the collected microplastics using the plankton net. Normally, the plankton net that we use is around 30 microns. That's the smallest. So that could be like more than 30 micron size of microplastics. So this is the guy. And I didn't get his name in the credits. So those who are doing Facebook, please help me find this guy. He's the one who did all this. It was really his idea, and he invited his friends to do this. Now, upon collection of this microplastic is being dried, and then they pass through, this is in the lab, it's like an electrostatic precipitator. So yung electricity, different charge, and different densities of these microplastics, and you can segregate the microplastics according to size. It keeps on spinning until all these different sizes are distributed, and you can collect the microplastics, and they are in different colors. So this is how they look under the microscope. This is a PhD student studying these microplastics at the institute. And now with the methodology, I'm glad that Dr. Tanchuling already did studies. One is in a river that drains into Laguna de Bay. So actually, the methodology is there already. It's currently being tested. And the challenge now is to come up with a protocol so that all of the countries or scientists doing the study would follow the same procedure, and so we could have comparable results. And I'm glad that in UP College of Civil Engineering, they're really doing the studies. Civil engineering nga, di ba? Oh, okay. Asan ba tayo? Institute pa lang. Okay. Sorry ha. Na-elevate ko na yung kay Dr. Tanchuling. Na-promote. It reminds me, every time I'm with Jerry, napopromote ako. Tinatawag niya ako, Dr. Minsan sa telephone, "Hi, Dr. Lenny." And I told myself, hindi pa ba ako kilala ni Jerry? HPD pa, hindi pa doktor at hindi doktor. Okay. Now, on the home front. Years back, it was the bragging rights of mayors when they have declared that my town is a no-plastic town, lahat, nasa news yan. First mayor to declare, several mayors followed suit, and I think, if I remembered it right, the first mayor to declare na nadyaryo, featured in the newspaper, was Muntinlupa City. So, si Mayor Aldrin pa noon ng Muntinlupa. And as one of the mayors in the Laguna de Bay region, of course, wow, every time we see each other, Mayor, congratulations, you were the first mayor. And then Los Baños followed, and the other LGUs followed. So may mga ordinance. And this was several years back, 2010. Now, when one of my staff, I told them, are you working closely with Senro of Muntinlupa? Yes, ma'am, and they're doing this inventory of plastics. And I was surprised that they were the first to ban the use of plastics. And look at the figures here. In 2016, 30% of the waste, ito yung wax nila, 30% is plastic. May slight improvement in 2017, 28.8 or 29% yung plastic. So, hindi pa yata effective yung kanilang ban, no? Perhaps they have the ordinances, but some of these ordinances remains to be implemented. So, look at this. Halos, as we can say, it's an evidence that the ban is not that effective. Or perhaps it's because of the implementation. So, let me share with you some of the take-home messages I have, because Dr. Tanchuling will be dealing more with the real study, the real investigation on microplastics. At may dala pa yatang samples, no, ng microplastics. Yes. So, in terms of advocacy, sinasabi natin, walang plastic, bawal plastic, wag na tayong gumamit ng plastic. If there are no macroplastics, there will be no microplastics. But Jerry mentioned, are we really sure we don't want plastics? And let's have an inventory of the things that we are using. A lot of them are from plastics. So perhaps plastics is not the issue, but how do we manage it? How do we dispose it? No? And sabi nga niya, maapekto niya yung poorest of the poor when we ban sachet. And I remember Unilever working with the students on buying back the sachet, and they exchange it for school supplies. And those sachet, they convert it, they use it in some products, like in construction and making bags. So, nagagamit naman. So, should we really ban plastic or just promote the management of plastics? Then, of course, the green cosmetics and healthcare products. So it's a call to the manufacturers and, of course, to the consumers as well. If we don't buy it, then why produce? I remember this soap. Who have been to Lake Biwa in Japan? You know this soap movement? Lake Biwa is suffering from serious eutrophication, red algal bloom. And the housewives learned that it was phosphate that is the cause of such problem. And they are using synthetic detergents with a lot of phosphate. So the soap movement was born. The housewives didn't patronize those detergents. They patronized the old ones that they use. So it was the manufacturer, even the multinational manufacturer, they adjusted the formula. So now there is no phosphate containing or how do you call this? These synthetic detergents being used along the shore of Lake Biwa. And then, of course, the green consumerism. So in terms of solid waste management, we have Republic Act 9003. Do we need more of this act? Or because when you look at the implementation, it's really not that good. You remember our ombudsman, Conchita Carpio Morales, fresh na detained sa Hong Kong. He issued a how do you call this in legal term? Show cause order for all the LGUs who are not implementing well the Solid Waste Management Act. And everyone was on their toes. But now she's not doing it anymore. I hope the ombudsman would again follow that because it was very effective. And then are we just recycling, or is recycling a delaying tactic? Because these eco bricks, repurposed plastic bottles, impressive. And I like it. In fact, I've seen one. I've seen a lot, I mean. But I was with a Japanese colleague, and I was very proud. I told him to join me in Teresa, Rizal, which is really a very successful example of a World Bank-funded project that really succeed in so far as solid waste management is concerned. So they make these bricks, these plastics, and they put it in the bricks. But the Japanese told me, yes, that's impressive, but on the longer term, is these bricks would sort of disintegrate or corrode, and these plastics will just fly. And I said, and then that would be microplastics. So perhaps perfecting the technology or improving the technology. And then the new technologies on solid waste disposal. Why is everybody sort of cautious of saying waste to energy? We are receiving a lot of waste. I was talking with USEC Benny Antiporda, and I said, wow, we returned the waste to Canada, but now a lot of this waste, I don't know if they are really for fuel, are coming into the country from different countries also. So let's think of perhaps what technologies. I remember in the JICA hostel or hotel, you find there in your room 2 trash bins. Ang label lang nila is burnable and non-burnable. So they have these incinerators. Even in the city, they have incinerators. And I said, the Japanese are very conscious of their health, but they have the incinerators. And I said, yes, because the technology is good. So perhaps the Philippines could look into that. And this Clean Air Act, we were in a forum with Justice Presbitero Velasco, with the Mandamus and the Clean Air Act, and said, hindi naman daw totally sinabing bawal ang incineration. But this is something that we have to think of, and I have talked with some USECs at the DNR. They're already, baka tapos na yon, formulating some guidelines on waste to energy. So let's hope the appropriate technologies will be implemented or used in the country so that we will lessen our problem on plastics and solid waste in general. So please visit this website. This is the website of the Institute where you can find a lot of work about the microplastics, all the things they are doing. And this is in, of course, this is in Koblenz. It's the Plastic.net network, kaya ang acronym nila is PLANET. And I guess this is the last slide, just a take-home message that, you know, I found this is in New Zealand. We were having coffee and I said, wow, there is more plastic in our oceans than the stars in our galaxy. So individually, we can reduce the amount of plastic in our lakes, in our rivers, and our oceans. With that, thank you very much.